Chapter 5: How to Get the Basics Right. Imagine you are the best football team in the world and putting them on the pitch without any defense players on their side. Suddenly, opponents that never previously posed any threat would stand a much better chance at winning. While the defense players may not be as exciting as the strikers, we all underestimate their power to change the game. We all have a tendency to neglect the basics. Your mother tells you to get to bed early and eat your greens, and you can't help but roll your eyes. Thanks, Mom. But when it comes to defense players, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. The basics are the first things we let slide when we are not feeling so good. We withdraw from friends, we drink too much coffee, and then we can't sleep. We stop exercising. But what's the difference it really makes? Well, the science suggests that it's a bit like taking each of your defense players off the pitch and leaving an open goal. The basics are not glamorous. They don't give us the hit of having bought something that promises to fix everything. But they are cash in the health bank when life starts throwing things at you. Those defenses are going to keep you standing and help you to pull you back up if you fall. It's worth pointing out that you don't have to approach them all perfectly. There is no perfect diet that everyone agrees on, or an optimal amount or type of social interaction. These are not goals to be achieved to perfection. They are foundations. Those defense players need as much nourishing as the strikers because they are crucial for staying in the game. But where one slips, another can help you out. When those defenses get compromised, it's not a sign or fault of failure. It's generally a sign that life is happening. For example, a new parent is likely to have no control over the sleep deprivation they face, but they can take extra care to eat well and keep up social contact with friends and family, which will help them well throughout that period. Understanding what those main defenses are, that we can keep them on the radar. We can check in with them on a regular basis and look for small ways in which we might be able to improve them and strengthen them. If you are tempted to skip over this because you think you have heard it all before, then it's even more important to read it. We underestimate the power of these defenses so much that they are often the first things we let go of under stress or not feeling so good. But not only is science crystal clear on these in recent years, it has also shown their potency to be even more far-reaching than we once thought. Exercise! Whether your low mood is mild or intermittent, or you live with a major depressive disorder, exercise has a potent antidepressant effects. For those who use antidepressant medication, adding in exercise leads to better results. Exercise leads to higher circulating levels of dopamine, as well as more available dopamine receptors in the brain. This means it increases your capacity for pleasure in everyday life. So finding exercise you enjoy does not only offer you joy while you exercise, but increases your sensitivity to find joy in all the other aspects of your life. Unfortunately for us, the concept of exercise has been branded as a painful process that you must go through for the purpose of altering your appearance. The conversation is mostly centered around enduring the pain for aesthetic gain. No wonder that so many people see exercise as not for them. The focus on how moving your body makes you feel has been left out of the conversation for too long. Yet throughout the pandemic, many people have rediscovered the joys of exercising in green spaces. Being forced to spend so much time indoors made the effects of the daily walk all that more salient. The psychological impact of exercising, not on a treadmill indoors, but outside in nature, is starting to be demonstrated by science. In a study of adults undergoing cognitive brain therapy, CBT, for depression, the group whose therapy was provided in a forest setting showed a remission rate that was 61% higher than those who underwent the same program in a hospital setting. For those who can't stand the idea of vigorous exercise, the slower movements of yoga can still have significant effects on mood, as well as increase the ability to calm the mind and body more quickly. Deciding to add in exercise to your life does not mean that you're going to make up ultra marathons or weightlifting at an expensive gym. In fact, it is easier to gain momentum if you start as small as you can. You might not even leave the house to begin with. You might put your favorite music and dance around until you feel a little out of breath. If you can make it small and choose something that has the potential to bring you joy, it is much more likely to be sustainable. A one-off workout won't change everything, but a small increase in physical activity that you can keep up with has the power to become a catalyst for significant lifestyle change. Exercise does much more than just give you a little boost in mood. It positively impacts on your mind and body in countless ways. But don't take my word for it. Find a way to increase your activity in a way that feels enjoyable or meaningful to you, and see how you feel. Sleep. Take anyone on this earth and start depriving them of sleep, and that person will become vulnerable to both physical and mental illness. But that relationship between sleep and mental health works both ways. When your mental health dips because of stress, low mood, and anxiety, your sleep is likely to be disturbed at some point too, whichever comes first. You can almost guarantee that when your sleep takes a dive, so will your mood and your belief in your ability to bounce back. When you haven't had enough sleep, everything feels 10 times harder. Sleep has a profound effect on every aspect of your well-being. So if you think your sleep is not as good as it could be, it is well worth your time and effort to try improving it. For those who experience long-term insomnia, working with a specialist is highly recommended. But if you want to work on improving the amount or the quality of the sleep that you're getting, I have a list of tips below to get you started. Again, we are not aiming for perfection, and you don't have to do everything on the list to get a good enough sleep. There are times when life happens, and it pulls you away from a healthy sleep pattern. If your work shifts, travel long haul, have young children, or a habit of staying up late playing computer games, you can learn to check in with yourself and put into place whatever is necessary to steer you back in the right direction. Alright, so this is the list here. Keep vigorous exercise earlier in the day and try using the evenings for relaxation. A warm bath before bed can help your body reach a temperature that is optimal for sleep. Try to get as much natural light as possible within the first 30 minutes of waking. Our circadian rhythm that regulates our sleep pattern is governed by exposure to light. Indoor light can help, but natural outdoor is the best, even on a cloudy day. Step outside for 10 minutes first thing in the morning. Also, make time to get outside as much as possible throughout the day. In the evening, when the sun goes down, keep the lights low. When it comes to screens, the research suggests it is less about the color of the screen light and more about the brightness. So turn down the brightness on the screens in the evening as much as possible and switch them off altogether as early as possible. Make time in the day to tackle things that you are worried about. Make your decisions, make your plans, take something off your to-do list. Get good sleep is also about what you do during the day. We are much better at problem solving during the day hours, but if we push those problems away and ignore them, they tend to pop up at night when we are trying to sleep. So clear the desk and clear your mind as much as you can. For those nights when laying your head on the pillow is a cue for your brain to switch on and start worrying. Try keeping a worry list. Put pen and paper beside the bed. When a worry pops up in your mind, write it down. Just a few words or bullet points. Do the same for any other worries that might come up. This is your to-do list for the next day. You make a promise to yourself that you will dedicate time tomorrow to working with these problems. That way you are free to let them go for now and refocus your attention on rest. You cannot force sleep. Making sleep happen is not something that you choose to do. Sleep happens when we create an environment in which the body and the mind can feel safe and calm. So don't concentrate on sleep. Concentrate on relaxation, rest, and calm. Your brain will do the rest. Avoid caffeine in the late afternoon and evening. The energy drinks that are promoted to young people often contain high levels of caffeine that disturb sleep and can cause symptoms of anxiety. As a general rule, it is a good idea not to consume too much of anything in the lead up to bedtime. This especially includes big meals with high levels of refined sugar. Anything that gives you a spike in stress is not going to help you get to sleep and stay asleep. Nutrition, mental health, and physical health are weaves in the same basket. If one moves, the other moves. In recent years, the science has made strides in demonstrating this. How you feed your brain influences how you feel. The research is even showing that improvements in nutrition can have large benefits for the depressive symptoms. And making positive changes to how we eat might help prevent depression as we age. When we understand that our mood is influenced by several factors, it makes good sense to tackle that from all sides. With just a moment of reflection, most of us could easily come up with a few ways in which we can nourish our body better. Research being done across the world suggests that it's not one strict diet that protects your mental health. The traditional Mediterranean diet shows that the largest and the strongest evidence base for mental health benefits, but many others show a reduced risk of depression, including the traditional Norwegian, Japanese, and Anglo-Saxon diets too. The things they all tend to have in common are the inclusion of whole, unprocessed foods, healthy fats, and whole grains. There's a lot of misinformation around food, so in the resources section of this book, I've included suggestions for further reading for credible sources if you would like to read it further. But the overarching idea is that making good nutrition a priority and educating yourself about what that looks like if you need to is a great idea for tackling low mood and improving your mental health. But as I mentioned before, making huge life transformations overnight is less helpful if you cannot sustain them. Instead, it is helpful to ask ourselves on a regular basis, what is one small change I could put in place today that would improve my nutritional intake? Then repeat this daily. Routine. Another key defense player for the mental health and resilience seems to be routine. This may have been the most underestimated influence on our well-being until the pandemic turned routine upside down and inside out for so many people. Repetition and predictability help keep us safe. But we also need for variety and a sense of adventure. So we like to have our routine, and we like to break those routines occasionally, preferably with something pleasurable, meaningful, or exciting. When we're not feeling so great, routine can suffer. You might stay up late watching television because you are blocking out stressful thoughts about work the next day. Then it is harder to get up in the morning, so you stop your morning workout. Or maybe you are out of work for a period of time and you start taking naps in the afternoon, but then struggle to sleep at night. Being off work changes how much social interaction you get. You don't leave the house for days and struggle with finding a reason to shower or even get up in the morning. Then your appetite goes, but you have no energy. So you mostly spend your day drinking coffee, and the cascading effect of a routine change unfolds. Each of these seemingly small changes matter because they add up and create the experience as a whole. If you have a tall glass of water and you pour a small drop of cordial into it, you might barely be able to notice the difference. But if you add a couple more small drops, the general color of the water begins to change. Each of those small drops over time will dramatically change the overall color and the taste of the water. So each small drop counts, even though they may not be enough by themselves to change how you feel entirely. That said, there's no perfect routine. Establishing a balance of predictability and adventure that works for you within your unique circumstances is key. Noticing when that goes off track and pulling it back is a big step in the right direction. Human connection. While looking after your own body and mind is essential, nurturing good quality relationships is one of the most powerful tools we have in maintaining good mental health throughout the lifespan. When our relationships are not going well, it can have a catastrophic impact on our mood and emotional state. It can also work the other way. Deterioration in our mood can be damaging to our relationships. It can leave us feeling disconnected from people around us and trigger a deep sense of loneliness. When you're feeling low, the thought of facing anyone can be exhausting and overwhelming. This is a trap of depression. It tells us to withdraw, hide away, don't see anyone until we feel better. So we wait until we feel better. But in doing so, we hold ourselves back. Taking some time to be alone can be re-energizing and recharging, but it could also very easily become a downward spiral of rumination and self-loathing that feeds depression and keeps it going. Being with others, even though we don't feel like it, to observe them, interact with them, and build connections with them can often lift our mood and pull us out of our own head and back into the real world. We know from the research that good quality social support is associated with better outcomes when it comes to our mood. Many of the people who never tell a soul that they are struggling firmly believe that presenting themselves as anything less than their best would make them a burden to the people around them. But the science suggests otherwise. Social support has a positive effect on both the one receiving it and the one providing it. So when we are struggling and we want to pull ourselves out from a low mood, one of the most powerful things that we can do is to swim against the strong tide that is pushing us towards isolation and loneliness. We must not wait until we feel like it, because feeling like it doesn't come first. The action must come first. The feeling follows after. The more you spend making real connections with other people, the more you will start to improve your mental health. Spending time with other people doesn't mean we have to talk about how we feel. In fact, we don't have to talk at all. Just be around people, watch them, smile at them. Share whatever conversation you can manage. Low mood and depression can make us feel uncomfortable and anxious around people. We get concerned with how we might be coming across. We tend to spend so much of our time criticizing ourselves that we start to assume that others are judging us too. Can you remember which thought bias this was? Despite all the thoughts and feelings that hold us back from each other, human connection is our inbuilt mechanism for resilience. When we struggle, connection helps. Oh, good quality, safe connection. If that can't be found in your family or friends, then professionals can help provide that until you're able to find and create new, meaningful relationships in your own life. Chapter summary. Our mental health defense players provide the foundation of good health. When we nurture them daily, they pay us back with interest. If you do one thing today, make it exercise. Choose something that you enjoy and increase your chances of keeping it going. The relationship between sleep and mental health works both ways. Prioritizing sleep will help your mental health, and make changes to your day will help affect your sleep. How you feed your brain influences how you feel. Traditional Mediterranean, Japanese, and Norwegian diets show benefits for mental health. Human connection is a powerful tool for stress resilience. Your relationships change your biology and psychology. 2. On motivation. Chapter 6. Understanding motivation. As we build up the psychological toolkit with skills that help us manage through life, it is easy to imagine that motivation is one of the best tools. But motivation is not a skill. Neither is it a fixed personality trait that we are either born with or without. So many of us know exactly what we need to do, we just don't feel like doing it right now. And when later comes, we don't feel like doing it either. Sometimes we can get all fired up about a goal, and things start moving in the right direction. But a few days later, that feeling fizzles out again, and we're back to square one. So, motivation that goes up and down is not a fault in the system. It's a part of being human. It is a sensation that comes and goes just like our emotions, so we can't always rely on it to be there. But what does that mean for our dreams and goals? Your brain is constantly paying attention to what is happening in your body. It knows what is happening to your heart rate, your breathing, your muscles, and it reacts to the information it receives, making judgment about how much energy it should expend on the task in front of you. This means we have more influence over their feelings than we think. We start to change what we are doing with the body. It has an influence on the activity in the brain. which in turn influences the feeling that are being produced in the body. This is something we can use to our advantage. When we are dealing with that can't be bothered feeling, there are two main prongs of attack. Learning how to cultivate that feeling of motivation and energy to increase the chances of it appearing more often. Learning how to act in line with your best interest, even when motivation is absent. Developing the capacity to do what you need, even when a part of you doesn't feel like it. Procrastination, or anhedonia. I want to make a distinction here between procrastination and anhedonia. Procrastination is something everyone does. It is when we put something off because the job we need to do triggers stress reaction or some other feelings that is adversive. I've made hundreds of educational videos for social media, but it gives me a video to make that feels uncomfortable or difficult to get right. And I will skirt around the job all day, convincing myself that all those other things that I need to get done is me being productive. In fact, it's actually me procrastinating because the idea of making that particular video feels difficult or uncomfortable that day. Anhedonia is something different. This is when we stop taking pleasure in the things that we used to enjoy. Anhedonia is associated with a number of mental health problems, including depression. When we feel that way, we start to question whether anything is worth the effort. Things that we once brought joy start feeling meaningless. So we stop doing the things that we have potential to lift our mood because we have no desire for them anymore. When you start to avoid something that is important or potentially meaningful to you, the natural response is to wait until you feel like it once again. You wait until you feel energized or motivated or ready. The problem with this is that that feeling does not arise spontaneously. We need to create it through action. Doing nothing feeds the lethargy and that can't be bothered feeling, and it makes it worse. Motivation is a wonderful byproduct of action. It's that great feeling you get when you are on your way out of the gym, not on your way in. It's a feeling of energy and momentum you get once you have started doing something and your brain and body starts to rise to the challenge for you. Sometimes the feeling is fleeting. At other times it lasts for much longer. Much of that will depend on other factors that either are working to foster it or squash it. So when we are doing something, even when your mood is flat, even when your flat mood says, I don't feel like it, we can trigger a biological and emotional shift. This doesn't mean that we're putting some music on or doing a single workout is going to solve all of your problems or change your life, but it sets in motion a series of events that shifts your direction. For everyone who is struggling with depression and suffering from anhedonia, as a part of that, the pleasure in activities and motivation to engage in them takes time to return and can be very up and down for a long while. There is a period in which we have to grind, doing things that matter to us, even when we don't feel like it, in order to re-engage with pleasure we used to feel. Alright, chapter summary. Motivation is not something you are born with. The feeling that you are energized and want to do something cannot be relied upon to always be there. Mastering motivation is building up the capacity to do whatever makes most to you, whatever matters most to you, even when a part of it doesn't feel like it. Procrastination is often avoidance of stress and discomfort. Anhedonia is when we no longer get a sense of pleasure from the activities that we used to enjoy. This is often associated with low mood and depression. If something matters to you and you can benefit your health, don't wait until you feel like it. Do it anyway.